Good evening, everyone, and a wonderful warm welcome to the Small Business City of Sydney event. Tonight we're going to be deep diving and learning a lot about how to work with the Chinese market. We've got some fabulous group of speakers that are going to be sharing their own experience and what works for them, and certainly also what hasn't worked. So you're going to learn firsthand some really wonderful lessons. So without any further ado, I would love to welcome our Lord Mayor, Clover Moore.
Thank you, Jo, and hello everyone, and I want to wish you a very warm welcome as well. So I'd like to first of all acknowledge the original custodians of our land, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and pay my respects to their elders both past and present, and acknowledge the people of very many nations who live in our city. I'd also like to welcome this evening's speakers, Nicholas Chu of St Albans, Paul Davidson of Koala Echo, Alison Airy from the Australia-China Business Council, Renat Sadikov of CosiTrip, and David Lau of Alipay. Welcome to our speakers. So, Paul and Alison will both be presenting case studies from their own experience. A digital strategy is essential for any small business today, and of course that's why you're all here. And that's why the City hosts these seminars. We bring experts to share their experiences and knowledge and give you the opportunity to learn from them. China, which now represents 1/4 of the global online market, is obviously of major interest to Australian companies, especially given its growing demand of Australian products. And this is a huge opportunity for Sydney small businesses to market and sell to the domestic Chinese community, and also for the growing numbers of inbound Chinese tourists and the e-commerce shoppers in China itself. But China's digital ecosystem and its payment gateways can be difficult to navigate. So this seminar will introduce you to the basics and also elaborate on the opportunities available to different industries. Tonight's speakers are local business owners who have cracked the code and are already reaching and selling to Chinese consumers. They will tell you how to leverage the current market, and they'll tell you about opportunities for your business, and they'll give you an insight into the challenges of the Chinese digital ecosystem compared to our own. They can help you ensure that your website is visible behind the Great Firewall and how to optimise it for Chinese search engines. You'll learn about the benefits of promoting your business on WeChat and be given an overview of how to leverage payment gateways like WeChat Pay and Alipay to boost sales. There's also a unique opportunity for 6 businesses to have a 15-minute one-to-one session with the St Albans team to ask specific questions relating to your business. It will be a rewarding night for everyone. I also want to make sure that you know about the city's new digital and social media campaign to promote our local villages and profile our high street businesses. We're asking residents and businesses to take pictures of their favourite local haunts and share them on social media with the hashtag #SydneyLocal. We're encouraging business owners to use the hashtag #SydneyLocal on Facebook and in Instagram, and want to say to you that the more you tag images of your business and its offerings, the greater your chance of featuring on the city's social media accounts. So it's up to you. So I encourage you all to join in, and I wish you all an informative and inspiring evening tonight. And I know it's going to be informative and inspiring, and I wish I could stay, but I have to go to another commitment now. But I'm sure you're going to get a lot out of tonight, so thank you for coming. Thanks, Jo, and all our organisers. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lord Mayor. It's going to run in a couple of different ways. Thank you. It's going to run in a couple of different ways. Firstly, we're going to deep dive and learn a little bit more about how this Chinese ecosystem works. So many of you may know the digital platform that we work within in Australia. How does that relate when you're working in China? So we'll hear firsthand, and we'll get a really great layering of the basic. And we do hope that we start basic, and we will touch on a little bit of complex, but we will use an opportunity through questions and answer for you to ask some additional complex questions should you wish to. We'll then be going to a Q&A session where you'll be able to have an opportunity to ask some of our key speakers their own experiences and where you can get your own first-hand information from. So that is how the night's going to work. We'll have firstly a presentation. We will then move this screen out of the way. We'll then have 2 separate panel sessions, one where you're going to hear from industry and the second where you're going to hear from businesses themselves. So we'll kick off firstly with our very first speaker. And Nico is going going to be really giving his experience of why he has gotten into this industry, what brought him to be the CEO and founder of Synorbis. He is responsible for the strategy and development and global expansion of the company. He comes to this with a depth of experience working in startups and also being involved in the Europe, US, and also the Asia Pacific areas. He has had a great time himself being an investor. He's enjoyed it. He'll tell you himself tonight how hard it can be at times, and he'll share with you the biggest lessons that he's learnt in the team that he has at Synorbis. So welcome, Nico.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. So, as Joe mentioned, my name is Nicholas. I'm the founder and CEO of Synorbis. Not a long time ago, I was actually in your shoes trying to crack the Chinese market and realize, on one hand, how huge the demand was coming from China for overseas products and services, but on the other hand, how difficult it was to crack it. So, I have decided actually to quit everything to launch this business to help, SMBs and Western Australian companies to tap into this market. So what I'd like to do first and foremost is to play a short video to explain who we are, what we're doing, but also to give an introduction on the digital space in China.
The world's largest online market is also the most difficult to crack. China. It has over 750 million internet users. That's a quarter of the world's online population. The problem is, the Chinese internet regulation, known as the Great Firewall, has filtered out popular websites such as Google and Facebook, allowing for the emergence of a parallel digital ecosystem. The indirect consequence is that most Western websites are being completely locked out of China. Or if they do get through, they aren't optimized for Chinese search engines or integrated with Chinese social media channels. That's where Synorbis comes in. Our all-in-one marketing software makes digital marketing in China as easy as it is at home. Easily build a website and landing pages that are fully optimized for the Chinese digital ecosystem, without having to jump the usual regulatory and technical hurdles or knowing how to code. Use one of our beautiful templates or create a site from scratch with our drag and drop tools. You can even translate your copy as you go. Set up and manage your company's WeChat account all from within the same easy-to-use platform. Our analytics dashboard and AI-powered recommendations give you the insights you need to outrank your competitors on China's 4 major search engines, meaning improved awareness and better conversion for your brand. Synorbis gives you the tools you need to capitalize on the once-in-a-century opportunity that is China. Request a demo today and connect your business to the world's largest online market.
So we launched this product like a year ago, and now we have clients across a variety of industries, anywhere from the sole trader to actually top ASX 50. So quite a little bit of experience, either firsthand by trying to crack this market ourselves, or by helping others since we decided to launch Synorbis. So what I'd like to do today is to talk about the market opportunity. We heard it's a huge market, huge opportunity for us here in Australia. But while it is the largest market online, the largest online market in the world, it is also one of the most difficult ones to crack. So I'd like to go through the digital journey of a Chinese customers, how he or she are finding your products. What are the channels that they're using to find products? What are the channels that they're leveraging to better understand what to buy and what not to buy? And then I will go through some recommendations, 4 recommendations, how to crack this market, how to start to go after the Chinese market. So first, the market. China now is the world's largest online market. It represents a quarter of the world's internet population. 25% of the world's internet population is now coming from China. It's a massive market. It represents actually 40% of the market, the e-commerce market worldwide. To put this back into perspective, 40% means that it's bigger than the US market, France, Germany, the UK, Japan, Australia, put together. And it's still growing at 56% online penetration, which means that only a fraction of the population in China is actually online. The growth is a double-digit growth. Every year, China is adding more than 41 million internet users. So it gives you a sense, twice the size of the Australian population. Every year, China is producing the GDP of the size of Switzerland. That's the huge market, and everything is done mainly through mobile. But in terms to put this back into comparison, I put here some numbers. You know, in Australia, we are 21 million internet users. In the US, 312 million and 802 million in China, growing at an exponential rate, almost like $1 trillion in terms of e-commerce market. So it's a significant opportunity for us in different sectors. Education, Chinese students have contributed up to 7.3 billion to our economy last year. Actually, Chinese students are now the largest source market for international students in Australia. Tourism, travel, and we know that it's very, very important for us. We had last year more than 1.3 million Chinese travelers coming to Australia, more than New Zealanders. They spend more than $10.3 billion, which is a huge number. Obviously, it's more than everyone else. What is interesting is that even if you strip out travel, accommodations, flights, the Chinese travelers spent almost $1 billion last year in products that they brought back home. So that's a huge, huge amount. Here, we really know for everything that is related to organic, pure, health supplements, very, very popular. We share here some the increase of searches from Chinese customers on different search engines such as Baidu and Sogou. I'm going to talk about them in a moment. And consumer goods is a huge market. And as you can see, in total, if you add this number with the 1 billion that I was talking about, the contribution, you have almost $7 billion of goods that were bought by Chinese consumers last year. So it's a huge number. But while it is by far the largest market, and we always talk about it as a huge opportunity, it is also bloody difficult to crack. So what I'm going to try to explain today is the journey. And for this reason, I would like to introduce you my personas, Huifeng, who is the typical, and actually she's in the audience, who is the typical Chinese consumer. She is in the younger demographics. She will have a young family, 1 kid. She is within the bracket of 31-40. She is really, really focusing on quite a few things when she is looking for products. She values quality and diversity. She will be buying clothes, mother and baby products, cosmetic, personal care products. The male demographic is a bit slightly different in China, where it will be more electronics actually online. She will definitely be doing mainly her research and her purchases through mobile, first and foremost, and that's very important. The older demographic in China would be more desktop, but this demographic and the youngest one definitely more mobile. And then she will be shopping frequently, once or twice per week. And she will heavily rely on promotions. Promotions is given in China. You have promotions every other month, if not every month, and you have very specific, big promotions. You probably have heard about the 11/11 promotion organized by Alibaba, which is the equivalent of the Black Friday massive promotion in November. You have usually always a promotion during, Chinese New Year in February. You have something for Golden Week as well in October. So. A lot of promotions. So phase one, the first time that, in this case, Huifeng is looking for organic product, organic clean product. And she had enough to use, the products that she used to use, and is looking for new products. So she's going to look for some inspiration. The first thing that she will be looking at are a combination of news portals, review sites, social portals to get some inspiration, to get some information about which type of products she would be looking for. In this case, she will be going to Xiaohongshu, the Little Red Book, which is a social platform in China where people are posting some reviews on articles on products. And she will discover actually one article on Koala Eco. And she never heard about this brand before, but it's interesting. That's the first contact. Then she will go on Sohu, which is a big portal in China, and she will be reading an article on Sohu. So she will go on one of those big e-commerce marketplaces. So you have, Tmall, you have Jingdong, you have Kaola. On Kaola, she will actually find this product. So that's the third time that she sees this product. Then she will be asking her friends on WeChat, have you heard about this brand? What do you think about it? And then get some feedback. And once she is convinced that it could be the right product, then she moves to the second phase. The second phase is the consideration. This time, she will be searching for the product. So she would jump on Baidu, because obviously Google is not available over there. She will be searching. She will find, actually, in the first results, a link to the official websites of Koala Eco in Chinese that is visible in China. She will be browsing the official website, click on the QR code, and then start following, Koala Eco WeChat official account. I'm going to explain all this in a moment, what is an official account and how to create those. Then she will be moving to the third phase, which is really the conversion in itself, and then the nurturing, the engagement. So she will be buying the product either through the official sites, if the official site has an e-commerce capability, either through the WeChat store, if the brand has a WeChat store, or through one of those e-commerce platforms here on Kaola. And then she will be sharing information, online reviews, and she will keep engaged with the brand through WeChat, because now she is following the brand on WeChat and receive information from the brand on a regular basis. So if we summarize the whole journey, that's her searching for her products. She will be, if we go through the 4 phases that I just described, awareness, consideration, action, and loyalty, she will first be looking at browsing those portals, those social platforms, searching for information, asking friends, about the products. Then she will obviously be searching for the official site, very important to get information. Also, everything that is official in China is very important. Everything has to be legit, because there were so many issues in terms of consumer products in China with scandals and things that were happening, that this is very important. So she will be checking online. She will be going through the WeChat official account. Then she will be purchasing the whole thing and sharing with her friends, and start this kind of virtuous circle where she will be recommending again your product. So recommendations. Sounds pretty easy, but it's actually not that easy. The problem being what we call the Great Firewall, this regulation that has been filtering out the channels that we have been using here in Australia for years to promote our products and services. So recommendation number 1, you need to be on the right Chinese digital channel. You, in this audience, as an Australian business, if you're targeting Australian consumers, you will first and foremost make sure that your site is, indexed in Google, on Google or Bing. You will interact with your clients or prospects through, messaging apps such as WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger. You will be engaging with your audience through Facebook, Instagram, Snap, or Twitter. You will be posting videos about your product on YouTube. You will be selling on Amazon or eBay. You will be offering PayPal as a form of payment. You will be making sure that you have an official, articles on Wikipedia, or have, some articles on Quora for some Q&A. And you will be leveraging the local websites to make sure that you can, those can redirect to your product, your retail store, whatever it is, Zomato, Yelp. You need to be on those platforms. The problem is that none of these are either available or used in China. So if you want to go after the Chinese consumers, if you want to target them, you have to rethink how you do things. And while there's no Google or Bing, there's Baidu, Sogou, 360, Shenma. I'm going to go through them in a moment. You don't have WhatsApp and Facebook Messenger, but you have WeChat. You have QQ. You don't have Facebook and Instagram, but you have WeChat again. You have Weibo. You have Qzone. No, you don't have YouTube, but you have Youku. You have Tencent Video. Amazon and eBay are actually in China, but they're not that popular in China, and they're more on the B2B side. You don't have Amazon and eBay, but obviously you have Tmall, you have Taobao. Both belongs to Alibaba, Tmall being the equivalent of Amazon, Taobao being the equivalent of eBay, but you also have Jingdong, you have VIP, and you have Kaola, which is the newcomer that appear in the recent years. PayPal is not that popular in China, but you have Alipay and WeChat Pay that dominate the market, both, and you don't have Wikipedia, but you have the Baidu Baike, Sogou Baike, 360 Biker, you don't have Quora, but you have Jihu. And in terms of local side, everyone is using Jianping. So you have more or less a different player for each category. And those are not just copycats of what you can find here. They have evolved in a way that it's a completely different tool. I mean, WeChat, we always talk about WeChat, and I'm going to say a few words about them. WeChat is not just a Chinese WhatsApp. WeChat is a pure, completely different online ecosystem. So recommendation number 2, you need to make sure if you start from scratch to have something that you can redirect people to. And we always forget about it because it's pretty obvious that if you have a website here, your website is most likely visible in the US, in the UK. You might have to localize it if you go after France or Germany, but at the end of the day, people will still be able to reach and have access to your website. The problem is that because of this great firewall, this regulation in China, unless you have built your website in a way that is 100% optimized for this market, it's most likely that this site is not going to be loaded or will take a lot of time to be loaded in China. We actually analyze almost 3,000 companies in Australia, the ASX top 300, the top 500 private companies, and 2,000 companies that have a link to China. 94% of them are not visible in China. What does it mean? It means that it takes at least a minute to 3 minutes to be loaded. It means that it's not visible. A huge amount, 94% on the localization, and 89% are not optimized for the search engines. So you need to start from scratch. You need to be able to build a website that is visible. This is an example from one of our clients, the Sydney Airport. Well, it's using a platform. This is a loading time test from China. You don't have to speak Chinese to understand that red is bad and green is good. In this case, obviously, you can understand that the loading time was terrible coming from China. They built a fully responsive website, and now this is the visibility that they have in China. So the basic, you need to have something that is visible, but you need also to have something that is optimized and adapted and localized and responsive. Because going and building a Chinese website is more than just translating into simplified Chinese. The buying behavior is different. The browsing behavior is different. You need to make sure that actually you adapt your messaging, the way how you present your information to Chinese consumers. And it has to be responsive, and I think I will keep saying that throughout my presentation. We always say that you need nowadays to build things mobile first. In China, it is a prerequisite. You actually need to build for mobile first, and then desktop second. You need to leverage the power of search. I just wanted to say a few words on that, because we always talk about WeChat, we always talk about the big platforms such as Tmall, Alibaba, and those are crucial if you want to be in China. But we always have a tendency to forget about search engines. And you, as consumers, you use Google to search for almost everything. It is not that dissimilar in China. Actually, 90% of customers in China are saying that they have been influenced by search at a certain stage. They would be searching for information. They would be searching for reviews. Reviews are crucial for Chinese consumers. A Chinese consumer is relying 3 to 4 times more on reviews than an Australian consumer. Why? Again, this problem of legitimacy, this problem of trust that is crucial in China. You need to make sure that not only you're visible, but what people are saying about you online is good. You have Baidu. I mentioned them. They are the leader in this market, 60% market share, a lot of users. But you also have Sogou, which is the number 2. Sogou is backed by Tencent and has 525 million users. You also have 360, which is originally was a software, a browser in China, and an antivirus in China that a lot of people are using. And you have Shenma that belongs to Alibaba, that is the number 2, one of the largest search engine for mobile in China. So you do have the choice. Actually, you don't just have one player in China. The way how to do that, quite similar to how you would optimize your website in Australia. You have to make sure that, obviously, it is fully optimized. You need to understand what people are searching for. So if someone is searching for specific phrases on Baidu, you need to make sure that your site is optimized for those keyword phrases. You need to make sure that your pages are optimized for those keyword phrases. You need to make sure that what people are saying about you are related to those keywords. And you need to track and optimize your pages through us. So this is very similar to what we do here in Australia when you want to optimize it for Google, except that now you have to do it again and differently for Baidu, Sogou, 360, and Shenma. Obviously, I couldn't finish without talking about WeChat. WeChat is quite unique in the sense where it is not just an app. I usually describe WeChat as an ecosystem in itself, and I always said that Tencent, the company behind WeChat, managed actually to do what Facebook has always wanted to do for years, that is creating an environment that is separate from the web, where actually you can evolve and stay within this environment without having to do anything else. WeChat is 1.1 billion users, 300 million outside of China. Just in Australia, 2 million users of WeChat. WeChat represents 30% of all the time spent on mobile last year was on WeChat, a huge amount. And why? Because WeChat is not just a social network. WeChat is an ecosystem. You can do everything with WeChat. Obviously, you can review, you can talk, you can chat with your friends, but you can also book a restaurant, you can pay for everything, you can unlock a bike in the street, you can do everything through WeChat, and that's why this has become so popular. Last year, it contributed up to 1.7 billion in terms of lifestyle spending in China. So a very, very important channel to be on. What I'd like to do now is to talk a little bit more about the accounts. So WeChat would be similar to Facebook in many ways. You won't have the Facebook wall, but you will have the Facebook moments. You won't have the Facebook pages, but we have what we describe as being the accounts. You can create an official account for your company on WeChat, but there are some specificities that I thought was worth mentioning. So first and foremost, what is a WeChat account? Here you can see I'm following the Sydney Airport WeChat account. You have a menu, and you have the post and the articles, but you have a menu at the bottom where you can have access to different information. Here in this case, Sydney Airport is giving information to the flights, the transportation, how to get there, information on the type of services, the shops, the map of all the shops of the airport, some FAQ, the sales and promotion, shopping and eating, and tips on tax refund. And all this is redirecting to their Chinese website that is now visible and fully responsive. So as you can see, you can do much more, and you can have almost a mini site within WeChat. This is what we call an account. But just saying account would be too simple because it's China at the end, and it has to be a little bit complicated. So first, you have to choose between two types of account. You have what we call the subscription accounts and what we describe as being the service account. Here, I'm trying to show you how it appears in your WeChat contacts. The big difference between a subscription account and a service account is that a subscription account is an account that usually you can leverage to post information on a regular basis. Once a day, you can post information on this account, and all your followers will receive this type of account. The service account originally were created to service the clients, and you are limited in the number of times that you can post information. But unlike the subscription account, as you can see here, you have a folder, and I have to open this folder to have access to all my subscription accounts, while these ones are actually service accounts, and they are seen as if they were one of my contacts. So for instance, if I have John as a contact and I am following Sinobis as an account, though Sinobis will be seen as my contact. So obviously the visibility is much better for a service account. Also, the service account will allow you to have access to more features, such as payments, and will allow you to do a bunch of different things that you can't do on subscription. I'm going to describe this on the next slide. The second thing to consider is that your account can be what we call a verified account or an unverified account. Again, going back to this trust and credibility, it is very important to have something that is verified on WeChat. That's the difference between the two types of accounts, what you can do, what you can't do. I'm not going to go through it, and you will have access to my slides. But obviously, you can, as you can see, you can do more things through a service account when it's verified than when it's unverified. To get it verified, you need to have a business license. And you need to go through certain criteria, but it's fairly easy actually to have a domestic account. And that's the third thing that you need to consider. you have the choice between what we call a domestic account and an international account. Why? Because it has to be complicated. So a domestic account is an account that you can open with a Chinese business license, and it allows you to have access to all the features and to target the Chinese consumers in China and overseas. Usually, it can be verified. You can have access to the API and third-party integration. What does it mean? It means that if you have a CRM and you would like to link your WeChat account to the CRM, you can do it. But the problem is that it's only for domestic business licenses. Means that if you don't have an entity in China, if you don't have a subsidiary in China, you have actually to go through a third party to more or less borrow, what we call borrow their license, which is, by the way, not, which is forbidden, but some people are doing that. You have the international accounts. The international accounts are something that you can open with your ACN or ABN here. The problem with these accounts is that they're quite limited in terms of features, and you can't target mainland Chinese. You can only target the users of WeChat from overseas. So if you want to promote your products to Chinese consumers in China, actually an international account is quite limited. And on top of that, you need to have at least 500 followers to be verified. It can't be verified if you don't have a minimum of followers. This, 2 years ago, were more or less the two options. And Tencent released less than 2 years ago a new type of account called the universal account. And they tried to get the best of both worlds, more or less by opening accounts to overseas companies. So with your ACN or ABN, you can actually open this type of account. You will have access to almost all the features. You will be a little bit limited on certain features, but almost all the features. And more importantly, you can target Chinese in China with these accounts. They can be verified. You can only have a service account. You can't have a subscription account with this type of account. And it's also a little bit more expensive, and you still have to go through a process of validation through Tencent, so it's not something that easy to get. You need to go through a third-party a certified partner actually to open this type of account. But now, as business owners, you can have your own account and your own name, and we always recommend actually our clients to do that because it's very, very dangerous actually to leverage the license of someone else, because what happens is that this person owns your account, owns your base, owns your brand. So it's something that we usually don't recommend, and now you do have an option through the universal account to have your own account. So in terms of engagement, I just put here some stats on the type of content that usually Chinese consumers are sharing, and also the time of the day where it is the best to publish content, where usually you have the highest reading rate, which is between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. and 6 p.m. and 10 p.m. Those are Chinese local time, and China is behind us by 2 to 3 hours, which means that you have to post from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. in the afternoon if you want to target these guys. So to summarize, what I'd like to do is to really recommend you to make sure that you are leveraging the right channels. It sounds obvious, but we always forget about it. Making sure that you have a site that is visible and localized for the Chinese market. Do not forget about search, which is very important, the search engines, and engage through WeChat, because now you have to go through WeChat. So obviously, there will be some questions after the presentation. What I'd like to do, I don't know, how many people are using WeChat in the audience? Great, so anyone who is using WeChat, what you can do, you can pick up your phone, and for those who don't have WeChat, then you can download WeChat. And what I did here is that I created a group on WeChat for this audience and these conferences, where you would be able to share, experiences, where you would be able to share or ask questions to me directly. So you go on WeChat for everyone, and once you're on WeChat, you click on the plus, which is on the top right. You open the scan, and you scan this QR code. And as soon as you scan this QR code, you will be added to this group automatically, and you will be able to spam me if you want. I might be putting some filters now that I said that. And I will be sharing the QR code with everyone if you don't have WeChat. But if you want to go up to China, I would highly recommend actually to start using WeChat. That could be a good start. Oh, wow, I have already a lot that join. Great. And the last one is Autumn. Great. And if you want, you can also have more QR codes. You know, at the end of the day, we're talking about China. So you can photo Synovus, or you can spam me directly if you don't want others to know what you're talking about by scanning my own QR code. This is to connect with me on WeChat. I'd be more than happy to answer your questions. That's it. Thank you very much. Thanks for your time.
Wow. Can I ask you all to join me in thanking Nico again? That was fantastic. So thank you very much. I think you explain that so easily for those people that simply don't know, and how they're connecting the dots of the different platforms for what you may traditionally know yourselves. So while we are doing the movement of this, and before we're getting ready for our panel session, I just wanted to make some quick announcements about, the Lord Mayor mentioned in her introduction this great new social media campaign that the city has. If you're ever looking for something to do over a weekend, you're not sure what's on offer, you can hashtag Sydney Local, and you can learn about all the great things that are happening here in Sydney. And if you are a local business in Sydney, feel free to also hashtag yourself, and you'll be shared on that. So it's a brilliant little social media campaign that the city's been running now for the bulk of this year. Also, if you are a business within the City of Sydney local government area, you are also now able to vote in local government elections. So there's a little information flyer at the beginning of the night where you can actually get some more information about that if you are. So that if you are a local business, you do have an opportunity to register now for that process. So just some little announcements while we move the panel there. So what we're now going to do is actually learn a little bit more about that. So I'll invite Nico back up onto the stage if you'd like to join us back, and we'll run through some questions and answers with you. I'd also like to invite Alison Airy. She's actually from the Australian China Business Council, and she's got extensive experience, I should say, in managing the Australian-China business relationship. She's worked within the New South Wales government. She's advised the Premier and also the Minister for Trade and Industry. She's played a leading role in organising trade missions to and from China with the Premier and also the Minister. She's been heavily involved in organising many different activities and industry events that the state government has done, and she's going to share with us tonight many of those experiences and her knowledge of what the government and industry here within Sydney can do to help you. So thank you so much. And then we have David Lauer. He's actually from Alipay. Come on up, David. David joined Alipay after 14 years in the payments and transportation industry with a focus to promote and drive the use of new payment technologies to empower local Australian merchants to better service inbound travellers from China. He holds a Bachelor of Media and Communications and is a Master of Business Administration and majoring in Business Law. So he's also going to, and he's also a JP, so if anyone's got an important document they would like signed tonight, you can do it over here. So I'm going to ask each of them to share a little bit of their own experiences and to answer some questions. So Nico, can I run straight with you? So you've given us a whole heap of information, let me put it that way. Secondly, where can people go? So you heard this tonight, what's my first next step? What do I do next?
Well, as I said, you need to rethink the way how you're doing things, and you need to start from scratch. So if you have to start from scratch, you need to think who you're going to go after. The way how you're going to do it, and how. Who you're going to go after, I think it's important. We always talk about China as one country, but China is actually different countries. You have 6 different tiers in terms of cities, and the way how you would be targeting, people from Shanghai would be completely different from the way how you're going to target people from Xi'an, for instance. So it's very important to understand who you're going to go after first. Then it's very important to build your foundations, as I explained, because it's most likely that you don't have these for China. And then you need to make sure that it's adapted to this market.
Fantastic. And is there some keywords you need to know?
Yes.
What are those? If you had your top 10 basic things you need to know in terms of talking into the Chinese market, what would they be?
So in terms of how you present the information, yes. So as I said, it's really different from the way how we consume information in China. The consumers are really different. Just translating your content into simplified Chinese won't be enough. you will need to make sure that it's adapted to the way how Chinese consumers are browsing online. So one example that I always give is Chinese consumers are used to have, when you click on a new link, to open in a new tab. And it's not uncommon at the end of your session where they have like 10 to 15 tabs open at the same time, which is something that you will never see here. So this type of behavior, the fact that you can have a button in red, for instance, is something that is very important. You will never put a button like a click to action in here on a website in red unless you don't want people to click on it. That's the opposite in China. So you need to be aware of that. If you don't, you need to talk to people who can help you. You can find information. You can download white papers. But it's very important to understand that China is huge. It's difficult and different.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Alison, can I bring you in here? So obviously with your depth of experience, certainly within the Australian industry here and all the work that you've been doing with government, what's your overview of the Chinese market from building on some of the key information that Nico shared?
Yeah, well, I mean, the numbers are just mind-boggling, aren't they? And the amazing thing is that the numbers continue to grow.
Yeah.
So we're looking at 400 million middle-class consumers in the next few years, which is just mind-boggling. The nice thing about the Chinese consumer, though, is they do seem to be very open to foreign products. So an interesting statistic I heard on the weekend was that of all the people that use Alibaba platforms to purchase goods, 40% have actually purchased a foreign product. So that's really good news for us. And we're very fortunate in Australia to have such a strong brand within China. We're clean, we're green, safe and friendly. So that's really something that I think we can capitalise on. But, as Nick, alluded to throughout his presentation, although it's big, the flip side of so many consumers is that there are so many entrepreneurs as well in China. So that makes it a very, very competitive, very competitive market to operate in. Another difficult thing is that it is complex. You alluded to this a lot. The regulations are very complex. They're often changing, and the consumers, as you brought out very well in your presentation, very demanding and detail oriented. So much more demanding than we're used to in the Australian context. So there's a huge opportunity there, but it is a difficult market. But when I say difficult, it just means preparation. It means, and in a lot of cases, it does mean going in with a Chinese partner, because if you can leverage that entrepreneurial strength and energy, then you're made. You just need to find the right partner and also make sure that you're aligned.
Fantastic, thank you. And David, from your perspective, many of us here still carry cash in our wallet. What's the Chinese experience when it comes to the broad perspective of how consumers are spending money?
Oh, can I just say, thank you so much for inviting me over here as well. I've just hopped off the plane, so it's always great to be home over here. Look, largely, China has transformed from cash into e-wallets basically overnight. So when Alipay came out into the scene, I keep telling this story. I mean, way back when, before Alipay, you literally have to line up to pay for your utility bills at a bank, right? So you go to your local bank branch, you line up for hours, and if the queue is huge, you might not make it, you go to the next day. So when Alipay came out, overnight we had an integrated solution where you can actually click into the utility bill and it'll just go through your Alipay account. So you don't need to go and do that anymore. So from that, we pretty much evolved over time. And essentially, Alipay is now a lifestyle app where you can go and pay for a loaf of bread, pay utility bills, book your cinema tickets, and go and buy a bag from the shop, all your stuff. So what we have here is essentially an ecosystem in itself. So our mission in Australia is that Australia is pretty much the envy of the world, like we were all saying over here. We have clean air, clean water, great weather. What's not to like? We have the world's best beaches. So everyone's here. There's a lot of fun here. And the great thing is there's 870 million users who have our app to make payments in China. So what we'd like to do is, our mission is to come here and talk to SMEs, small to medium-sized businesses like yourselves, and really just interact with you and guide you through the process on how to make Alipay work for you in your stores, so you can immediately accept payment through Alipay. So
Perfect. And you'll be available at the end of tonight's session to talk to people personally?
Absolutely. So Alipay has pretty much sent me on a mission over here. They've dropped me off a spaceship. Here's Australia, set up an office. So we've got a brand new office at Martin Place. So I'm here. So I do fly around looking after the Queensland market over there as well. So I just came back from Gold Coast and spent a couple of days over to Cairns as well. But we're largely here. And if you all have a bit of time at the end, do come over and say hello. I'll give you my business card, and let's connect and make Alipay work really well for you.
Brilliant. Fantastic. Thank you. And talking of connections and who can help, Alison, can you let us know what does what does your organisation do, the Business Council, and what can you do to help people in the room tonight?
Yeah. Well, connections is the key thing we do. We do connect our members with people that can help them succeed in business, whether that's business partners or service providers, or clicking you in with the right people in government. We also we provide insights to members because things are changing so rapidly in China. So we have seminars on things like the new Chinese consumer, what are they interested in? IP regulations, how are they changing and getting stronger? So that's a key part of what we do. We have about 300 people in our membership, and they range across different sectors, and they just have a wealth of understanding about the Chinese market. So developing networks with our members really helps people understand the Chinese market.
So if you are a new business in the room that's interested in finding out, I want to dab my toe in the water, I have no idea where to start, where would be your first suggestion of a touch point to get more knowledge, more, obviously other than being here tonight? What would be your next suggestion of where to go for that next layering of information?
Yeah, well, come along to some of our events. We frequently have events on e-commerce and other aspects of doing business in China. I would say, connect in with government as well. The New South Wales government, the federal government, they're an excellent resource. They have people on the ground who are able to assist. But I really think if you are just at the stage of dipping your toe in the water, I think you've just got to start talking to people who've done it. And the best way to do it is just to meet people at events like this, like our events, other events going on around town, and just get the information from people's heads.
Perfect. And is there any events that you can mention that people should look out for, watch out for, any meetups, any groups that come together on a regular basis? Yeah,
well, one of the programs that we run is a regular monthly SME roundtable. So that's held every month, and we have different themes every week, and so that's an opportunity to hear from people about their experiences and also ask questions of others to get advice. And quite a lot of problems get solved actually around the roundtable, so it's a really nice event that we hold every month.
Fantastic. And then go back over to you. You mentioned how many Chinese people come to our country and spend. I think you mentioned at least 1 billion that they take back in our products and services back to China. From your perspective, how do businesses in the room that want to reach those people coming? What's your advice to actually tapping into the market that actually is right here on our shores?
Yes, so that would be quite similar to the way how you would like to target Chinese in China.
Yep.
So you need to be on the channels that they would be focusing on. The beauty of platforms such as WeChat is that it will allow you to target them if they are planning to come to Australia. So for instance, that's what Sydney Airport is doing as one of our clients. They are running some advertising and targeting Chinese travelers coming to China, and then targeting Chinese WeChat users once they are in Australia. So we do have clients actually that are leveraging WeChat a lot to target, not only the inbound Chinese customers, so travelers or students, but also Chinese Australians. Yep. Because, as I said, we almost have 2 million WeChat users now, and they do go on WeChat. They do buy things on Tmall, And so it's a great way actually to target this audience as well. We always forget about the local Chinese,
Yeah.
but it's actually another way to target them.
Yeah, that's an interesting point as well. Thank you. So I'm now going to arrange for some microphones to be filtered through the room to ask you some questions. So if you can start to raise your hands if you'd like to ask any of our speakers some questions. And while I'm just organising the microphones, I've spotted a few hands, so I'll come back to you in a second. Alison, can you just share with people what government programs are there to assist when it comes to maybe grant funding or some additional support that are specific programs?
Yeah, so I'd like to mention two in particular. One is the Export Market Development Grant. So that assists companies with their marketing costs, and that's on a reimbursement basis. So the money that you spend on marketing materials, on trade shows, for example, that can be reimbursed. For larger exports, there's also the Export Finance Insurance Corporation, which provides export finance. But another thing that I would recommend is insurance, export insurance, so that if you do have problems with payment at the other end, usually that's not a problem with the digital platforms because that's all covered. But outside those platforms, export insurance can ensure that if there are problems, then you can get your funds back at the end of the day.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much. And I'll start with some questions. Thank you. How are you?
I wanted to ask if there is any evidence or any data on whether selling to China, selling within China with a local presence, or not bothering to sell to China at all makes any difference to the likelihood of the theft of intellectual property, which is a pretty critical question, I think, the moment you start talking about selling in China generally.
Alison,
Yeah, well, I mean, intellectual property is something that you need to be very aware of in China. I think the key thing about the IP system in China is it's different from Australia. And a lot of the mistakes that people make in going into China is assuming that the legal regime is the same. So you need to understand what the legal regime is, make sure you fulfill all the regulatory requirements, and at the end of the day, be prepared to enforce your legal rights. And the Chinese government, to its credit, is increasingly strengthening its IP regime. I mean, it was historically a user of IP, but it's increasingly becoming a generator of IP. So it's in its own interest to get its IP regime right. And it might not be perfect, but it is being improved over time. But you do need to make sure you tick all the boxes in terms of IP with
Fantastic.
the Chinese market.
Thank you.
Hi, I found this fascinating. Thank you so much for all of the information. Could you talk to the considerations, perhaps Nick, in terms of being a service-based business versus product-based? And are there any industries, product or service, that do not work with the Chinese platform selling into China?
Yeah, it's a very good question. We're starting to see more and more professional services providers who are leveraging digital marketing channels in China to promote their services. It used to be mainly products, and especially in Australia, but interestingly enough, in the financial space, it's something that's working very well. The main reason being that a lot of financial services providers in Australia are targeting the high net worth in China to get the SIV, the significant investment visa. When you invest a certain amount of money in Australia, you can have this visa. So this is one example of professional services that are targeting Chinese consumers. What I noticed as well, interestingly enough, is usually the professional services providers who are willing to target Chinese, like law firms, it's not because they're trying to get new clients, it's just to make sure that if one Chinese company or client is looking for a local lawyer here in Australia, they will be able to find it. So you need to be visible. What works, what doesn't, the way how you generate demand is quite different. I'll be happy to answer this afterwards because it's long, but you don't have great B2B channels to drive demand in China. LinkedIn is used, but not that much. So online, it remains very offline, but you can build your presence online when you're professional services.
Fantastic. And can I show more hands of people that had... Yep, perfect. Thank you.
Hi there. We've got an Australian brand that we design ourselves, but we actually manufacture in China already. We've had some indication from our contacts in China that they would like our brand to be available in China. What advice do you have in terms of promoting our Australian brand, setting up our Australian website, however, distributing our product based from Chinese manufacturers?
Nico?
Yeah, sure. I just wanted not to take the whole. Yeah, well, actually, you already have resolved a part of it, which is on the logistics, so that would be a good one. You need to make sure that you own and control your messaging and your brand. One type of mistakes that I saw in the past is to leverage and to heavily rely on the distributors to do that. When obviously you already have manufacturing, so you just have a distributor to do it. A distributor is great to make the sales, but a distributor is not great to do marketing. Even though they will say, yes, do marketing through us, they will actually outsource to agencies. So you can actually nowadays have the possibility to build websites that are visible in China without the need to have an entity in China to do that. You can have those universal accounts that allow you to own your account and do it. So it would be actually easier for you to do it because you already have the logistics part handled. You just need to make sure that the Chinese consumers are aware of your brand by leveraging all those channels.
Thank you. And there's a question just here. Thank you.
Sorry, Nico, this is for you again.
Sure.
You mentioned in your presentation around how important reviews are
Yes.
to Chinese consumers. I was hoping you might be able to elaborate a little bit more in terms of, are those reviews from KOLs or is it everyday consumers? Is it those reviews that carry the most weight? And is it also reviews that might come from an Australian person, for example, on a particular product?
Yeah, it's a very good question. It comes from both. So obviously, the KOL, the key opinion leaders, the social influencers are those guys who have 100,000 of followers. And obviously, if they write something on your brand, it's most likely going to be visible in the search results. It could be just the Q&A questions, such as Quora. So Quora doesn't exist in China, but you have Jihu, and a lot of people are asking questions on Jihu. A lot of people would be checking the Baidu Baike, which is like a source of information similar to Wikipedia, as I mentioned. It is actually important to make sure that the reviews are good across all this and not just by having KOLs. Until 3 years ago in China, you could actually pay for the owners of those forums and Q&A sites to actually remove the good reviews, and then like everything in China, they let it something that a lot of brands are using. You can do that. You would be surprised actually to see if you, for instance, on Baidu, if you speak Chinese and you Baidu Swiss, is it good or not as a brand? The first results that you will find of Baidu is someone saying that Swiss is only popular with Chinese and it's not that popular in Australia. So, and that's what a consumer would be looking at as the first results on Baidu when they look for these brands. So you need to be in control of that. It's the most complicated part, but you need to be aware of it.
Are there any further questions? Is there any questions at the back of the room? We haven't spotted hands, got? Yep, questions.
Sorry, I have a question for these two gentlemen, sorry. First question was to you, sir. With your platform, is it something that you can just add to your current Australian website as a payment option for people that perhaps are travelling and already in Australia?
Basically, we have the Alipay app over here, and it is a platform in itself, an ecosystem as well. So what we can do is talk to you and really add your business listing onto the app. So when they come into the market, when they come into Australia for a holiday, for instance, they can pull up a list. Basically, it's like Yellow Pages baked into the app itself. And then they can say what's near me, where to eat, where to buy, where the great values are. You can upload a coupon if you're a store there as well. So it's a very thriving marketplace that we'd like to talk to everybody in this room to add their stores onto the app itself.
Fantastic. And a question for you.
Yeah, sorry, my second question was a little bit to what this lady asked as well about the reviews. You're saying that the Chinese market relies heavily on reviews. When you're first coming to that market and you have no reviews yet, your product hasn't been bought or used, how do you generate any type of momentum around that without the weight of people saying that it's okay? is there a way, is it more just marketing based? Is it pure like spend more, get more?
Yes, it is. And actually, I can share a personal experience. I used to work for Expedia, the online travel company, and I used to be the managing director of the region. And I can share something now. It was a long time ago, so I can share one of the best kept secret from TripAdvisor. That was part of Expedia. When TripAdvisor were launching a new market, they had no reviews. So they were buying people to actually write reviews. They were legit reviews, don't get me wrong, but they were actually buying reviews from other sites to get reviews on TripAdvisor. It is the same thing if you go to China, you need to generate reviews. Whatever it is, by asking your customers to write reviews for you, like you can find in Australia, where you ask your customers to write reviews on product review and then you display these. You need to have your website. I mean, it goes back to this. You need to first have a website that is visible, and you need to incite your customers to write reviews. And obviously, if you are listed on one of those marketplaces, Tmall, Jingdong, VIP, they all have this system of reviews that will, and then you will start to get the ball rolling. You have to make sure that you scan regularly, sites such as Jihu, in order to make sure that if someone is asking a question, you are the one who is answering it, and not someone else. That's the way how you start. But you need to have some visibility, and you need to incite your customers to actually write reviews.
Fantastic. I think we might close off the questions there. All of our speakers will be available at the end of the night for you to continue to ask some personal questions. I think quite a few of the questions that were coming up then our next panellists may well be able to answer. So if I could actually thank all of you for joining us tonight, we really appreciate it. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'd now like to invite our final two panellists to join us. They're going to talk about their own experiences. So some of the questions that were raised there about reviews and how do I sell my product, you're going to learn that a little bit through Paul Davidson. He's the General Manager and CEO. In fact, I don't even have your exact title, Paul, on my notes, for Koala Eco. So he'll tell you exactly his role and title in the organisation. He's going to talk to you about his product and how he's actually created quite a buzz in the cleaning lands of China in some of the homes there. And then our second speaker is Renat I can't actually say your last name, Sandikov, isn't it? From CosiTrip. CosiTrip is actually an instant hotel booking platform directly B2B in the Chinese market. So both of them are going to share their experiences. And because I did such a terrible job of introducing both of you, could you actually tell us a little bit about your role and what your company does? Can I start with you, Paul?
Sure, absolutely. We're a small business, so my role is never ending. I could list 1,000 things.
So you are
here,
everything.
Yeah. But I co-founded Koala Eco with my wife, Jessica Bragdon. We make all natural, 100% plant-based cleaning products with Australian essential oils.
Perfect, thank you. And
yeah, so I'm Renat. So I'm one of the co-founders of CosiTrip, and CosiTrip is a travel platform. So we help Australian hotels and general travel suppliers push themselves out all across of China. And in China, we work with hundreds of travel companies, travel agencies, tech companies, and we help them get access to Australian travel products.
fantastic. Paul, can you tell us, did you start the business thinking that you would be an Australian business or that you would be a Chinese business?
No, we definitely started as an Australian business. We launched in 2017.
So you're only 18 months old?
Yes, we're only 18 months old. We're now in about 400 retailers across Australia.
Yeah.
And we're exporting to China, Taiwan, Hong Kong, Singapore, Macau, Indonesia.
And they're 18 months old. Just reminding everyone on that. So how hard have you worked?
Oh, look, weekends and nights. But we did start as an Australian company. We wanted to build an Australian footprint. I think we always knew that there was a big opportunity to be had in China, and look, we are passionate about the environment. We give 1% of all sales go back to an organisation called 1% for the Planet.
Wow.
So the China market, yes, it is a great opportunity, but we also we're excited about if we can be a part of helping that massive population turn to a better alternative, both for the health benefits and for the environment. We're excited to be a part of that.
Oh, that's a lovely goal as well. So when you first started, when did you make the decision, we feel as though we're confident enough to take our brand, which is so new, into the Chinese market? What was your very first step?
Look, probably after about 6 months. I mean, obviously we are very Australian-centric. We have the Australian essential oils, and the name is obviously synonymous with Australia. So we thought the brand would resonate in China. But we did feel it was important to have that footprint to create that legitimacy. I think Chinese consumers want to know that it's a product and a brand that's enjoyed here and people buy it here. So when we started, we looked at, there's a wealth of knowledge obviously on the internet. I think one of the most valuable things that I learned was I think Alison touched on earlier, was talking to other people, talking to businesses that are of similar size, talking to people who have done it and made mistakes, and they can tell you, how to avoid those mistakes. And I think for the most part, people are very open, and we found similar businesses very happy to talk to us, and people who have done similar before us as well.
So do you have, further to the question was previously asked, do you actually have a Chinese distributor? And how do you work that, managing your brand, to relate to that question that was said earlier?
Sure. So we've recently signed a supply agreement with a Chinese distributor, and going to having St Albans here was fortuitous because we're a client of theirs, and we use their services to now we've just set up a Chinese-based website. We have a WeChat account, so that's very exciting for us.
Fantastic. So are you in control of your own website?
Yeah, we did. We felt it was important to maintain the control over the website and the WeChat account, even though it will be supporting our distributor over there. We wanted to maintain the brand integrity, and we can be in control of the marketing and what goes on there, and so forth.
And answer some of the questions. How do you go about answering the questions on when customers ask you questions? And that.
No, we haven't got to that stage yet.
You're still going, how do we do
that? That's something we're looking at into now. How we're going to manage, I guess, as we start to grow, in China.
Yeah, perfect. And reviews. How have you managed to, again, working on those two questions, how did you start getting reviews within your Chinese?
Sure. So for us, it was organic, and one of the things we did as a brand wanting to get into China was we engaged the local Daigou community.
Yep.
So we're a part of a website called daigousales.com, and we use them to market to the local Daigou community, and I think through that they then post on WeChat and they post reviews on products because they've tried them here, and then obviously there's that sales channel of Daigou purchasing our product both off our website and in our retail stores here to take back to China. So I think that those reviews, and we do have, and I was surprised that Nico said to me earlier before we started that he'd seen us on a few websites that I didn't even know about as far as reviews, so that was nice to hear. But yeah, it has been organic for us.
Yeah, that's good. And so it just goes to show for those in the room who are thinking about embarking on this that it's not as nerve-wracking as it may sound in terms of the layers and the complications when you've got that support. So can you tell us about the support you've used and kind of the ways you've started to gently navigate this process?
As far as getting into China, so as I said before, I think talking to people who've done it, there are a lot of great government services out there. We did the New South Wales Chamber of Commerce have a China Export Growth Program, so we were a part of that. And we felt like that was a good way to condense a lot of knowledge. They have great experience there. They were able to talk to us through regulations, expected margins, and I think it's, as Nico said earlier, it is such a big market. It's important to have an idea as to who your consumer is going to be and what is the most effective sales channel you can use to find that consumer. And that's, I think, one of the biggest challenges, and we found that doing that program helped us identify that immensely, and then the next step's how to actually get someone to sell you through the sales channel. Yeah, perfect. Thank you. Renat, can we come in and talk to you a little bit? Can you tell us a little bit more about your business and what made you set it up and actually have this Chinese focus?
Yeah, so actually we didn't start as a Chinese-facing business. We actually made a travel app using AI for the English-speaking audience. And as part of the market research, my co-founder, he went to China, and we were trying to see, would people use this app? Now what happened was, we didn't get much response about the app, but people started asking us questions. Can you guys help us book Australian hotels? And this was coming from travel agencies, travel tech companies, And this was a market we didn't really think of targeting too much before, but then we realized, hang on a second, we can help a lot of these companies sell to their travelers, and then we can also help the billion Chinese in China travel to Australia and make their lives more enjoyable and help them travel easier. And we decided, okay, let's tackle this market. So that's kind of how we ended up going to China, and that was 2 years ago.
Great. And how often do you find with your business you actually need to physically be in China?
Yeah, so I find for our business in particular, we have to be in China like as much as we possibly can. So my co-founder will fly there at least every other month.
Yep.
I probably spent around 3 months out of the last 12 months in China as well. And I found that that is really crucial for us to actually grow our business, because I think as founders, your core job is learning as fast as possible and also understanding the business. And if the business is to do with China and it's a core part of your market, then the fastest way to do that is actually by being inside China.
Did you find that what you were seeing and researching came to life when you got to China? Was it like, oh wow, what I thought was happening was actually opposite or different?
Yeah, you have a lot of those moments there. So that's one of the beauties about going there. So when you actually see the customers, see the business partners, and actually get a feel for how they think when you actually meet them, it does change how you think as well, because you have a lot of assumptions in Australia. Like you can assume people will think a certain way, people do things a certain way. But when you go to China, when you actually understand how their mindset works, a lot of things start to make much more sense about how they do things, and you might realize they did something because of one reason, but actually they did it because of another. The outcome could be the same, but the journey to get there was different. And once you understand the journey, that's when you can actually apply it to your business and make the most of it.
Fantastic. And have you found that as you move around China into the different areas, it's different?
Yes, we have as well. So I think Nicholas was mentioning that before. And definitely, the east coast of China has different habits to like inner China, and like different kinds of companies, different ways they do business as well. Companies at different stages of their lives as well. So I think in the east they tend to be quite aggressive for new tech companies. So we found that, which was a different way of doing business than if you go to a traditional travel agency inside the middle of China. Like, don't get me wrong, there's still like companies everywhere of different demographics, but it does tend to be a bit skewed in certain regions.
Yeah, and how have you found actually working business to business in the Chinese landscape?
Yeah, so that's quite challenging, and I think that goes back to actually being inside China and understanding things, because the more business partners you meet, then you have to really understand how they think, what sort of value they can bring to you, how they work, and there's a lot of challenges there, and the easiest way to do that is by actually being inside China. But I do think a really interesting part about doing business with China in the B2B space is that you learn a lot of things, so that's been a big upside. Like every time I go to China, I feel like I come back that much smarter. And that is because when you sit down in these meetings, when you meet these people who come from a different angle to you to approach problems, and then you realize, hang on a second, they're thinking a different way. And a lot of the time it could be very valuable lessons that you learn. And when you bring those things you learn back to Australia, you realize you can actually do business in a much more flexible way.
Yeah, great. That's fantastic. So, Paul, from your point of view, what was your professional experience before 18 months ago? You set up this amazing new business. Have you found that experience has helped you escalate and create this great momentum in the business?
Yep, no doubt. I'm a chartered accountant by trade, so that's been incredibly helpful. And over my corporate career, I've seen a lot of businesses and been involved in many different companies across a wide range of industries, both here and overseas. So, not being a 20-something entrepreneur and coming into it a bit later, I think has really helped me, and I think it's helped us. My wife and I, she had a career as well before, so I think it's helped us avoid mistakes having had that experience.
Yeah, and that prior knowledge.
Sure.
Fantastic. And Renat, from your point of view, what would you say would be some key tips that you have for people in the room that are embarking on this journey, thinking about expanding, thinking about the Chinese ecosystem, landscape, business community? What would be those key tips that you would have?
Yeah, so probably the biggest one will be decide whether you need to go to China right now or later, because China is a big beast. Like, it's a big challenge to actually go in there and do it properly. So it'll take up a lot of your time. And if your business, if you can, again, going back to the learning point, if you can learn a lot of the lessons about your business inside Australia, in a market you're familiar with, that'll make it so much easier, because then when you go to China, you're literally just learning how do I do business in China, as opposed to how do I run my business normally and how to do my business in China.
Yeah.
And also, again, if you're like us, because our business involves us actually doing the partnerships ourselves inside China, keep in mind as founders or the key players in your team, how much time you can spend inside China, because again, like when you will have to spend quite a bit of time there, and if you can't really be doing that, then also think like, should I bring somebody on my team that can help me with that? Can I bring on someone that can speak Chinese, who's flexible to travel? These sort of questions I would highly encourage founders to think about.
Perfect, fantastic. And from your perspective, what would you say your key tips are?
I think talk to as many people as you can who've been there and done that, and Alison mentioned some ways to do that. Use the resources that are out there and available, most freely available, and some that you need to pay for. And I think for us, it's been finding a strategic partner in China. I think that's been really key for us.
Yeah, perfect. And I will ask for questions now. I'll just get some microphones to you. I've got a question right at the front here. Has anyone else got any questions? Perfect. Thank you. We'll get some microphones to you. Yep.
Set up a small Chinese company, because there would be a lot of differences, I'm sure. And did you work out what the financial advantages were and the capital repatriation possibilities were in both those situations? Did you think about those things?
Did you catch all of that? Yeah, did you catch all of that before we got a microphone?
Sorry, am I asking?
No, that's fine. I think for us, so I'll answer it maybe in a couple of different ways. I think for us, as Renat said, it was very important to go there. And I went to China last year, and I think it's very important to see how big it is and how complex it is. And I think that was one of the things that led me to thinking that for us to be successful there, we're going to need to find a strategic partner, because I don't speak Mandarin, and it is daunting once you've been there. So, and then I guess this, and tell me if I've answered this correctly or not. Then the second part of it, it's important to be an Australian company, and I think that adds to the attractiveness of our brand. And people have asked us, have you changed your labelling? Have you changed the product? And the answer to that is no, because the Chinese consumers want to buy Australian products. And
different possibilities just to do that, to keep the relationship, aren't there? And associated companies and things like that.
Sure, I think and Renat will have a better answer than me on this, but
maybe that's
the relationships are very important. So I think we make regular trips to visit our partners over there, and I think that's always a good idea. But
yeah, sure. I think for us, well, actually, first of all, I think you do have to think about: do you go through a distributor, or do you go there yourself? Like, how much can you do from here and let somebody else do it for you? I think the more you can do that, the easier it probably is early on. In our case, we knew quite early on we have to be in China, because our business model involves doing B2B with China. And you asked about representative office or another kind of company. For us, we set up a wholly foreign-owned enterprise, and that is because from day one, we were from the moment we decided to go to China, we realized we need to be quite serious, and a wholly foreign-owned enterprise was kind of the best solution for us, because we knew we would need that eventually, so we just went for it straight up from the beginning.
Thank you. And a question here and then here, sorry. Thank you.
Sorry. So when you first took your brand to market, you said you took it to market with, was it another website that was already in China, a marketplace that you launched on? Was that before you had your own web presence in China? Did you just take it there as a product sold by somebody else?
So that was through the New South Wales Chamber of Commerce. So part of the 6-month program is they know the websites, the big websites. They have relationships with those websites. So they showcased our product in Shanghai for 6 months, and one of the cross-border e-commerce platforms picked it up, Kaola.com, and then they made an order through there. So we were stocked through them. That was our first entry into the market, and that was probably 9 months after we launched in Australia, and that also helped generate those reviews, because it was available over there. But so the website that we've done now through Synorbis, the Chinese website, that's purely, it's not going to be a commerce platform. It's purely for information purposes, and for us to maintain that brand control and have that ownership of the website.
Great, thank you.
The this gentleman. Sorry.
Quickly, because there's others as well.
Business to business stuff in tourism, is it hard because you're dealing with lots of small businesses versus bigger businesses, or do you find it the same when you're dealing with a bigger travel agency versus a small one?
So you mean inside mainland China, I'm guessing. So inside China, yeah, they do different agencies and different, I guess, backgrounds of the companies will do business differently. So a big travel company like Ctrip, for example, will work much different to, let's say we have another client in Guilin, a smaller agency, that will work in a much different way. Different ways to communicate, different ways you do business deals. And that's a part of the learning process as well, because you learn how to do business with a big company, a small company, and all the kind of companies in between as well.
Great, thank you.
I guess the question is mainly for Paul. How do you deal with the possibility or probability of counterfeits appearing in Chinese stores or indeed on Chinese websites?
That's a good question. It was one of the first things our distributor we talked about, and we're using anti-counterfeit labels, so that we're applying those now before we export. So there's different ways you can do it with labelling, but I think we're going to have a QR code on each of our bottles that will only work and will verify that it's a koala eco product. Not my understanding. I think it's the counterfeit culture, or I don't want to call it that, but the counterfeit issue in China is well known, and I think people, if they're a Chinese consumer, if they want to buy a legitimate Australian product, they want to be certain of what they're getting, especially if they're paying a premium to get that product. So it is something, and as I say, it was something that they raised with us that they wanted to do to give their consumers and their customers, the guarantee that it was an Australian product.
Is there any further questions? And a question here. Is there anyone else that has a question?
Hi, question for Paul. How instrumental were Australian Daigous in terms of how they successfully pushed your product in China? I suppose what I'm trying to ask is, if it wasn't for Daigous, would it have taken you longer to have got your product into China? Like, how much success do you put to the Daigo network here?
Look, I think it's difficult to measure. As I say, I was surprised by Nico telling me earlier today that he'd seen us and we've got reviews happening there. So I'd like to think that's played a part of it. But I think the Daigo community was also good for us because we did feedback. So we sent out a lot of samples. We'd send 200 samples out to 200 Daigo around Sydney and Melbourne, and they'd give us feedback. So it was helpful in that way as well, to give us some confidence that the products would be well received. But I'm confident that it also has contributed to those reviews, and it has started that brand awareness building that we're getting in China.
Nico, can I get you to come back up on stage for a moment? Just to answer the question that I know that we didn't necessarily cover tonight, that as people are asking questions, I think it would be really useful for you to share, is just your kind of explaining to people the tiers of cities and the tiers of consumers that sit within that. So the cities that actually have a high expectation of brand versus some of the cities that actually may be more interested in the product that they think is an example of that product. They're aspiring to this product, but they can't financially achieve it. Could you explain to people a little bit about those tiers of cities and how they work?
Sure. And unfortunately, it's not the only way how you should be looking at it, because you should be looking at who you're targeting within the cities. I mentioned the 6 tiers cities. That's the official way how the government in China is classifying the different cities in China. So you can imagine if there are 6 tiers, it means that there are a lot of differences between the first tier and the 6th one. But also in terms of buying behavior, in terms of purchasing behavior, in terms of online penetration as well. Yeah. So a distributor would be very important in the lower tiers. But beyond the tiers of the cities, the way of buying online would be completely different depending if it's a female or male, the type of products. It will depend on the age as well. As I said, 30 to 40 would be mainly through mobile. The millennials would be mainly through mobiles. It will depend if it's high incomes or low incomes. Obviously, there's a link between the type of incomes, the amount of money that they earn, and the tiers where they're living. So, for instance, as I was giving the example, actually it was earlier, of this new platform, Pinduoduo, who is very popular in third tier, fourth tier cities in China, where you can buy, cheap stuff for, 10 renminbi. And actually, this platform is even more popular than Tmall. In those cities. So it is very interesting to better understand that, again, it's not one China, and depending on who you're targeting, depending on the age, depending on the cities and the level of income, there will be a huge impact on the way how you communicate and the sales channels that you will be using.
Fantastic, thank you. I just thought that was worth just letting people know the differences in that in terms of if they are thinking of products and services to offer into China. So look, if you could all join me in thanking our panellists and their experiences, it would be wonderful. Thank you so much. So that concludes our formal part of the evening. However, if I could just to get you all to remain seated for a moment, all of our speakers and panellists are going to pop out into the room that you first met in. So they'll all be available there for you to ask questions. But 6 lucky people have the opportunity for a 15-minute one-on-one session with some of the team from Synorbis. It is a really great opportunity for you, if your name is called out, to actually start to understand your business and how it may apply. So start thinking now of some of those questions in case your name might be called. So how we're going to do this is the first 3 names that we hear. If the Synorbis people could pop up and just stand up near the door, that would be great. So these are the 3 experts that are going to give you your deep dive into the world of your new visible world, into the Chinese experience. So the first 3 names that I call out, if you could go and make your way over to there, and then the next 3 names that I call out, you'll be in the second session of the 15 minutes, and I'll get you also to go and wait by the door. So I'll start off with Nikhil Patel, if I've said that right. Congratulations. Head on over. You get a 15-minute session. And Ferlin Gerato, if I've said that right. Perfect. Head on over. You also get a session. Ting Ting Zen. Perfect. You can head on over. So there are our first 3 people that will basically have a 15-minute session, and now we've got the further 3 people that I'll call out. And if you can go and stand over by the door, we'll get you your session shortly. Is it Masoud Haderi? Apologies if I've said that really badly. Not sounding familiar to anyone. Stephanie Denman. See, this is why. Is it Stephanie? Hello. If you pop over there, you will be escorted out for your session. Pamela Angus Leppin. You've got a session. Welcome. And Laura Langthorne. Hi, you've got a session as well. So if you would like to pop over to there, we'll schedule your 15-minute session in a moment as well. So you'll have an opportunity to talk directly to the Synorbis team and get your own personal advice. For everyone else in the room, however, you still will get an opportunity to speak to the speakers that were on stage. They'll all be assembled in the room for you to have that last opportunity. So a couple of closing remarks from me. We love your feedback. We've been doing these events now for 8 years, and the City of Sydney is really proud to be able to support businesses and encourage businesses to excel and become even better businesses and provide a wonderful footprint within the Sydney community and also wider. So we will be sending you a post survey for you to give us some feedback on what was good, what wasn't, what you'd like more of, what you'd like less of, etc., etc. And we'd love it if you would be able to, bless you, we'd love it if you'd be able to fill that out when we send that to you. And also you will get an opportunity to review all of tonight's live feed because we've been recording it. So the presentation that Nico gave at the end, you'll have an opportunity to watch that back, look at that, take a snapshot of all of those, a screen grab of all of those great slides that he showed about all the different platforms, all those different things. So I think that, as you would agree, that was a fantastic presentation which gave you a really good insight to the comparisons of the way that the Chinese market works in comparison to that in Australia or even the rest of the world. So look, if you could all say thank you all for coming tonight. We really appreciate you turning up, and most importantly, one of the biggest biggest bits of advice we have to people in this space is connect to people. So take the opportunity when you pop out now and ask anyone you see, what is your business? What do you do? What do you want to do? Because you may find you've got some similarities or some complementary skills that you could share. Swap cards, swap contact details, and you can continue the journey beyond tonight. So thank you all so much for coming, and we hope you enjoyed the night. Thank you.